This is a Merida Silex and this is a Wilier Adlar, two gravel bikes designed for bikepacking adventure riding. But which one is the best? Which one should you choose? In this video we'll find out. We'll compare both bikes through a series of tests: frame details, bikepacking features, geometry, weight, price and specification, and of course how they ride and perform, to pick a winner between the two bikes. But first, what precisely is a bikepacking adventure gravel bike? Surely they're all the same. Well, yes and no, but there are some key differences in my experience. Firstly, there's mounts on the fork and frame for adding bags and racks and bottles very easily, so you can carry all the equipment you need for any type of adventure you have planned. So each bike, as you see, have mounts on the fork, the top tube, the down tube. The Merida has a pair of bolts here which you can fit a tool bag to, and both bikes have mudguard mounts as well. But when it comes to bike packing, Wilier have gone a step further and developed its own front and rear rack system using the through axles to give a quite staggering 35 kilograms of load capacity, and then developed bags with misgrapes to give you a complete bike packing setup ready to go from the box. So I really like that approach from Wilier. Really shows attention to detail for the bike packing customer. But each bike here can be perfectly set up with whatever bags or rack systems you prefer. Then there's bigger tyres. Bigger tyres give more comfort, which is great when you're riding over a long distance and several days back to back.
The new Silex has clearance for a 45mm wide tyre and has 45 tyres fitted, but the Adlar trumps it with space for 52mm tyres and rolls on a wider 47 tyre.
And then there's the geometry differences on the two bikes here, which are very similar, hence the comparison. Firstly, there's a more relaxed fit position on the bike, so higher handlebars, a bit shorter, so you're not as stretched as you are on a race gravel bike, and that makes riding a long distance over several days back to back much easier on your body. And then lastly, there's a geometry in how the bike handles and performs off-road, especially when you find yourself on some very technical, rough and rowdy trails full of rocks and roots, as you often do on a bike packing adventure. So slacker head angles, longer wheelbases make the bikes much calmer and easier to ride off-road. Conveniently, both bikes have the same Shimano GRX 12-speed mechanical shifting hydraulic disc brake group set with a nice wide range cassette, perfect for bike packing adventures. You want nice low gears when a bike is fully laden with all that kit you have to carry on a bike packing adventure. Both have carbon fibre frames and forks. The Merida has a carbon seat post, whereas the Wilier has an aluminium seat post, and both bikes have aluminium wheels. These are Eastern wheels, whereas the Wilier has the company's own Mikke wheels. And then we have Maxxis tyres on the Merida and Pirelli tyres on the Wilier. And yet, despite such similarities, the price difference is quite significant. The Merida here will set you back 3,600 euros, while the Wilier over there is 4,000 euros. So a big price difference given how similar they are in terms of the carbon frame material and a Shimano GRX group set. Let's compare frame details next, and there's a lot of similarity but a few key differences as well. They each have internal routing, but I think the Wilier does a better job of the routing up front compared to the Wilier. And while internal routing is a divisive subject, shall we say, it does have benefits for a bike packing setup in terms of fitting that bag to the handlebars where your sleeping bag often goes. The carbon frames on each bike are pretty lightweight, 1190 grams for the Wilier and then 1220 grams for the Merida, so both pretty lightweight, but not super lightweight compared to like a Crux or a Grail, for example. But both bikes have been designed for bike packing adventure riding, so a bit of extra carbon for durability is no bad thing at all. I like the fact the Merida has a threaded bottom bracket, while the Wilier has a press fit, a PF86, the same as Giant uses. But for the home mechanic, for that peace of mind, the Merida's threaded bottom bracket probably wins that battle. And then both bikes, I'm pleased to report, have a 27.2mm round seat post, so you can fit a suspension seat post, a dropper seat post, or a narrow seat post. We have a carbon seat post on the Merida versus an aluminium one on the Wilier, which is something I would probably upgrade if I buy on that bike. Each bike has a super long carbon fork, which you can easily swap for a suspension fork if you want, without upsetting or messing up the geometry of the bikes at all. So you are intent on riding down the roughest trails you can find and you want some extra comfort and control, both bikes will take a suspension fork like the Fox or RockShox with no issues at all. When I put a suspension fork on my Crux, it did upset the geometry in a slightly negative way. So these bikes get around that by having that longer fork in the first place. Okay, let's see what the differences actually mean out here on the road and trails. And unsurprisingly, given the similarity in geometry, they feel very similar. And the one thing that really strikes me about both bikes is how high the front end is. Coming from a racier gravel bike, it's the most distinct feature. And that's great when you're riding a long distance, when you're going bike packing, the front is higher, more relaxed, and put less strain on your upper body and back. So comfort is definitely a benefit of the higher position of these bikes. And when it comes to riding off-road on very technical trails, they're both extremely capable, and a combination of that high stack and a slacker head angle and the longer wheelbase gives a fantastic ability to get down any rocky, rooty trail with plenty of speed and a big dose of confidence. They're much more capable and much more at home the rougher the trail gets. You can ride tame mountain bike trails on both bikes and you'll be smiling from ear to ear. And the more you ride either bike, the more you get used to the higher handlebar position, and it goes from feeling a bit strange and odd at first to feeling very normal and very pleasant. It definitely makes a lot of sense for a bike packing adventure setup. When it really comes to finding the limits, I think the Merida just has the edge. It's a bit slacker, a bit higher and a bit longer, and the Maxxis tyres give a lot more grip in the conditions I'm riding through right now. And the other benefit of a higher handlebar position is that the drops are actually accessible. So when you're barreling along the road or a fast gravel track, you're in the drops, you're a bit more aero, and when you're descending, you have more control from the wide drops. Now the handlebars are different, and I do prefer the richly flared drop handlebar on the Wilier. That's much better for riding more technical trails. Definitely has the edge, wider, extreme flare, actually works really well despite how odd it does look. The Silex does have quite a firm ride. It never tips over into being harsh, but definitely an engaging ride. Thankfully, a 45mm wide tyres and a carbon seat post do give a reasonable amount of compliance when riding on rougher trails, but generally the comfort is very good. And the Wilier also offers good comfort too. We have the benefit of much bigger tyres on that bike, but no carbon seat post. So they're very similar in terms of comfort. So I would call it a draw between the two bikes in terms of comfort and compliance, and how they won't beat you up on a long ride and when you're riding off-road. On the road, both bikes are very pleasant indeed. That nice, stable, laid-back geometry creates a very easy handling bike. The Wilier, thanks to the faster roll and tread pattern of the tyres, does ride on the road better. The Maxxis Rambler tyres on the Merida do create a bit more drag, but they're not slow. And if you're just doing short sections of the road between off-road sections, it's fine. Tyre choice is an interesting one and very tricky for bike manufacturers to get right for every customer in every region. But I do think the Maxxis is a better fit and forget option, going to work everywhere more than the other tyres. But there can only be one winner. And for me, the price, the tyres and the geometry of the Merida Silex make this the best bike of the two here. I mean, they are both extremely good, and there are some features I prefer on the Wilier, namely the increased tyre clearance. But overall, taking everything into consideration, the new Silex is the one to choose. Disagree? Let me know by leaving a comment down below. And if you want to see a full roundup of some of the best gravel bikes on the market right now, then do watch this video right up here. But that is all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all again very soon.